there is one style of fighter that we have to check off now before it's too late.
Here comes Daredevil.
What are we doing, grappler? I think so. Yeah!
There's the Potemkin!
Versus Tiger!
Potemkin.
We know his face.
Every fighting game needs a grappler, whether it be the slowest mythical mainstream entry or the niche's craziest anime fighter. You need to make sure there's at least one grappler. And Potemkin isn't just a grappler, he's the grappler. He's got big giant hands, and if he gets close to you, he's going to grab you and send you into space. When this man goes to a job interview, he fills out a grapplication. When he takes the family out to eat, he goes to Grapplebee's. His favorite fruity beverage is a grapple. I'm sorry, I'm bad at making puns, and I'm just trying to stall because there really isn't a whole lot that needs to be said here. We need a grappler, and while miniseries out there will make sure to include multiple grappler characters for variety, Guilty Gear really only has the one. Because that's all you need.
You need someone else when you got
literally
Potemkin?
bodies the planet.
Bro, you can rely on Potemkin for anything. I love this man so much and how they characterize him, not being this big dumb oaf. This dude is here and he means business, and you know that he's gonna get the job done. He's so cool. Oh man.
It's usually an archetype that I'm not a big fan of, which is like the big musclehead kind of dude.
Yeah.
But Potemkin he's just special. I love him.
Need anyone else. And as for his drive ability, I say make it some kind of a stance that he can go into that gives him armor. He won't attack while he's in this stance, but most of Potemkin's moves have long starving inputs, making them hard to get out, especially considering that he can't run or dash. Well, just have him go into this stance, then as the opponent attacks you, you input your very next command, bam! You can now execute that move uninterrupted, and they're already right there in your face to receive the damage. Sure, you would take damage as well if they attack you while you're in this stance. It is a big risk-reward type of ability, but that's what Potemkin is.
That's the life of a grappler.
He's a character made up entirely of huge advantages and disadvantages. So alright, we got the big grappler of this game out of the way, right? Well, we got the grappler out of the way for Guilty Gear side. If this is a crossover game, you can't just give one side a grappler. You need to make sure that the other side has one too. And for BlazBlue, the choice is obvious.
The wheel of fate is turning.
Yup.
They even have a similar move. Look at this.
Yeah.
Bro brings him out into space.
That is not enough to defeat me.
Iron Tiger. Yep, when it comes to the grappler on the BlazBlue side, again, just like with Guilty Gear, it's kind of obvious. BlazBlue has a few characters who have grappler tendencies and techniques, but if you want pure, uncut, grade A grappler beef, it has to be Iron Tiger. And honestly, even if there was a better grappler on the Guilty Gear side, I'd still probably go with Tiger because, again, you want to think about which characters would match up nicely in a crossover, which ones would have the best interactions, and if Guilty Gear side gets a giant mechanized grappler, and BlazBlue's Resident Grappler is also a mountain of bolts and electricity, how on earth can you not put them up against each other? I kept saying that Ragna and Jin going up against Sol and Kai is what you put in the reveal trailer, but you better believe in the big crazy anime opening cutscene for this game, there is going to be a shot of Potemkin and Tiger clashing their giant hands into each other and pushing against one another as electricity crackles around them and the earth shakes. I mean, even if you aren't a fan of either of these characters, you just look at them and you have to agree.
They both launch up into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, Potemkin brings you up into heaven. This guy brings you out into space. Like, who's going higher than each other? I don't know. Depends on where you want to place them.
Yeah, that is something that has to happen in this game. Hell, they both even have big ultimate attacks where they fly the opponent into the air before smashing them down into the earth. Have a scene in the story mode where Tiger leaps Potemkin into the air, only for Potemkin to turn around, grab him in midair, then rocket blast even higher until eventually the two of them end up power driving each other into the earth from outer space. We have the potential to make one of the most epic pile drivers in video game history happen. You better believe we're going to take it.
Here comes Daredevil.
This is everything that I need. It doesn't exist yet, but it will. I have hope. I believe.
Want
Yes.
it. I want it. Yes,
Chip. Chip and Bang. It has to be.
Yeah.
Chip Zaneth. Okay, we got the big beefy brutes out of the way. Time to swing to the other side of the spectrum and cover the
speedsters.
rushdown characters. Yes, you need those speedy characters that know how to apply pressure, and since this is an anime fighter, speed is kind of the name of the game. Now, when it comes to grapplers, Guilty Gear only has a few to choose from, but they have a healthy chunk of rushdown. So it was hard choosing which one to include. But in the end, I decided to go with Chip, because not only has he been in this game since the very beginning and continued to be in every installment since, but also, he's just a great character.
Yeah.
He's the ninja president of his own...
He's the ninja president. Yep, there you go. Of his own kingdom. But I love the Guilty Gear characters so much because you would think that they're one thing, but they're not. They're not that at all.
Yeah.
They are so much more and so much more interesting than you would think.
Country. How can you not love that? But if I can be honest with everyone, the other reason I chose him is because in his latest appearance in Guilty Gear Strive, man, they did him kind of dirty. By the time this video comes out, who knows what kind of adjustments could have been made, but at the moment,
a lot of
Chip
adjustments
is
have been
almost
made.
a running gag on social media because his health bar is paper thin. But when you put a crossover game together, you have to merge two different game styles and statistics, meaning it's the perfect opportunity to rebalance characters that need rebalancing.
Yep.
So let's put Chip in here and give him some tweaks to make his fans happy. And as for who Chip's BlazBlue counterpoint would be, I'm actually not going to worry about playstyles and instead focus on personality. Because Chip is a ninja who leads his own group of people. Can you BlazBlue fans think of anyone that happens to match that description?
The
No,
wheel of
I
fate
can't.
is turning.
Friendship,
Yeah!
determination, victory! I am the ninja who fights in the name of love and justice. Bang Shishigami!
Bang Shishigami. Yes, if BlazBlue gets a ninja overflowing with bombastic personality, then BlazBlue gets one too. And I'll admit, I kind of want him in here simply because I think the interactions between him and Chip would be fantastic.
It would be so funny.
But even beyond that,
Yes,
Bang is
I
just
would
a
love it.
super fun character all around. This is a guy who is basically the ninja version of a Kamen Rider, and when he activates his distortion drive, not only does his speed
Flying
increase, but he has his own theme song that suddenly starts playing.
Quicker than the wind and as still as the forest! Hotter than
That's
flames
amazing.
and more magnificent than a mountain! I won't look at you!
I don't even think I need to say anything else. I'm sold on him. What more do you need?
Yeah!
Well, if
Yeah.
you
You need Bang to
need
be in.
another reason to include Bang, lucky for you, I have one. BlazBlue already had their own big crossover game, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, and a massive chunk of the BlazBlue universe was already included in that game. So I wanted to make sure that this game featured at least a few characters that didn't make it into BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle in order to give them a chance in the spotlight, and Bang to me is one of the bigger faces of this series who was left absent from there. So now we can put him in here and he'll finally have a chance to shine like the big superhero that he is. Or at least the big superhero that he really wants to be.
But what do you mean? Bang saved the day that one time with his nail. It was insane. He actually
That
was a
one time. You
superhero.
did it. Don't worry.
The wheel of fate is turning.
Okay. Who's gonna be the counterpart to this?
I feel like Happy Chaos is the best one, but I also don't know where this was in Strive's release.
Yeah.
Please just die for me!
Should be Happy Chaos, but it might
Awesome,
be Eno. But Eno
Alright, if
9,
we're bringing
though.
together the biggest
That's a
faces of
better
this series,
pairing.
then you
Say,
can't
you know,
just bring together the
Just doesn't thematically match, even if she's the big villain of Strive.
Who else would it be?
Bedman, maybe?
Bedman? I can see Bedman, yeah. They're not exactly the
Zato?
same. Zato. I mean, I don't know if he'd put Zato as like a puppet character to pair with a puppet character.
Yeah, I don't know.
This one's a bit tougher.
heroes, you need to bring on the bad guys as well. And when it comes to BlazBlue, oh boy, this was a tough choice between Hazama and Yuki Terumi. Mostly because the two of them are kind of one and the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can I explain this clearly? Let's just say that BlazBlue sometimes likes to get a little Kingdom Heartsy with its plot.
That's all you needed to say. No more explanation. That's it.
If the BlazBlue fans think that's an unfair comparison, I'd like to remind you,
I think it's apt.
all of these characters are kind of the same person.
What the hell are you talking about?
But basically, Hazama was a vessel created for this legendary psychopathic spirit, Yuki Terumi. And Terumi is the
Happy
true
Chaos is
big
just the
bad
best
guy of the
parallel
whole
here.
series.
Yeah.
But Hazama does have his own
But Happy Chaos might not have
personality,
existed
and
when he
the
made
two
this
of them
video.
have been playable as
I mean, he was
separate
one of the- he
characters
was in the first
with
set of
different
DLC.
moves in the same games.
I don't know if we're going in
so
base
I
roster.
had to choose one of them. And even though Yuki
Maybe.
was the true mastermind behind all of this, when you do a crossover game, you want to think about who is the more iconic
I hope it's Happy
character in
Chaos,
the
though.
franchise. And I would argue
too.
that Hazama just screams BlazBlue. This guy's snake-like
think
smile has
he's
been
more
inspired all
iconic.
over this
Yeah.
series since
Mm-hmm.
day one, and I would say that when most people picture BlazBlue
I'd
bad
seen
guy,
him before
this
I knew
face-
he was a BlazBlue character.
Yeah. And I mean, the yellow raincoat was a design that I guess it stuck out, but yeah, I had never seen that before either. I had seen Hazama before, though. He ticks all the right tropes when it comes to the anime villain, you know?
Yeah.
pops into their head first. Plus, as I said, he was a vessel that contained Yuki, so if we put Hazama in here,
You
it's
could
kind
put
of a
both of them.
2-for-1 deal.
Yep,
We would
both.
still
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
get Yuki Terumi into the story. They would still be basically the same guy. All I'm talking about now is just which model do we end up including? What moveset
Yeah.
do we include in the game? So that's why I'm going with Hazama. I think this dude's smooth criminal attire just fits the role better. But I'm also picking him because I think he fits very nicely alongside Guilty Gear's big recurring threats.
Here comes Daredevil.
Big recurring threat. Ino?
Mankind knew that they cannot change society. So instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts.
Yeah, Okay, I guess.
I think this is a weak matchup. I think there are better
Yeah.
matchups. But again, this could have come before Happy Chaos.
Yeah.
Eno.
But not putting Eno with
Again,
9
I'm
just
sure
seems like
that
a miss.
a lot of people out there, when they think of the big villain of Guilty Gear series, their mind is going to automatically go to that man. But that man, at the time of this recording, has yet to be playable in the actual series. And I do want to stress,
yeah, okay.
yet. I mean, we all know he's coming, right?
Yeah.
I know how
100%.
bad my timing is. He'll
We in the future know how complex he is to play, too.
probably be playable as soon as this video goes up. But at the moment, that man still hasn't been
yeah.
playable in the main Guilty Gear franchise, so I don't really think his first playable appearance should be in the crossover game. Also, in case you can't tell, I really like saying that man. So if we want
Me
a
too.
recurring villain who is iconic
it
in the
is a
series,
good
it's
joke,
gotta
yeah.
be Eno. The witch attire, the rock and roll motif, the foul mouth that can make a sailor blush. Well, there's the monetization for this
The moment I did that grab and heard that line, I knew I found my main.
video. Point is, Eno is a huge personality for this series, and one of her big driving motivations is that she came from a world where the future was bleak and gray, so she wants to make sure that that doesn't come to be because she doesn't want to be bored. Well, Hazama is a sociopath who enjoys hurting others because he himself can't feel pain. In other words, they're both malicious monsters just looking for stimulation. I can totally see them fighting, only to then look at each other and say, you know what? I get you. I understand what you're about. Let's work together. Heck, both of them even have experience being the right hand to the big true master manipulator of the whole series. It really does line up pretty well. And as for her drive ability, have her rock out on her...
At the time that he made this video, it makes sense. But now, with the characters that we have, I would say 100% it'd be Happy Chaos and Terumi if you want to do a pairing. Or Hazama. I'm sorry. Not Terumi. Well, they could be the same character.
guitar as you hold down the drive button in order to charge up her next projectile. I always loved her rocker persona, and having her rock out on her guitar as her drive action
So fun.
would be a great way to play into that.
Here comes Daredevil.
Oh,
You're in there. Hey! Bastard, this thing's not ready.
Totsugeki!
Why is this an adult toy?
Destroy.
Mission complete!
May. Yes, we had to include the
Okay,
little
what are we going for with the cutesy character? I guess probably
Trinity.
Rachel, Trinity.
I'd
Trinity's.
say Platinum the Trinity.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Dolphin Demon herself. May has been a major part of the Guilty Gear series since the very first installment and has remained a fan favorite character in almost every single game. And again,
True.
maybe they've rebalanced
Can't not
things
like
since
May.
writing this script, but at the moment,
I don't
she
like
is
her.
a beast in Strive with an arsenal of flying dolphins that can drive grown men insane.
Yeah.
Using dolphins. All she does is dolphins. And then she rushes in and you can't get out.
Plus, out of all the Guilty
I feel him so much. He is my spirit animal. The freaking Totsugeki. Oh my god. People who know that you're new to the game will abuse the heck out of that.
Yeah.
Because at that point you don't know how to play fighting games,
I've
so you
been
don't
on
know how
the
to get out of
receiving
that.
end of that.
Oh man. Oh yeah. When I was trying out May, I was like, oh, let me see how this feels. And it felt good in a really
No.
bad way.
Your characters, May to me just feels like she fits the tone of BlazBlue more than any of them. Because BlazBlue, yeah, it's got your edgy
I
sword
can see
boys,
that.
it's got your weird creepy
Yeah.
critters, it's got your angsty RPG protagonist, but it's also got a
But
ton
there's
of
also
young,
silliness.
cute
You know
Yes.
anime
He would match great with Sin.
Nato and Sin, yeah, actually true.
Yeah.
girls. Guilty Gear, yeah, not so much. They kind of just have May. So if we want to have a character in here from Guilty Gear that fits this particular side of the BlazBlue universe, it has to be the character who summons out cartoony sea life to fight beside her.
The wheel of fate is turning. Sucks to be you!
Oh!
Interesting.
Interesting
Okay.
choice. Cutesy character with fun moves, fun supers.
I can kind of see it.
I think we might be saving Platinum for Faust then. Maybe? Because he had to have Platinum, right? Or maybe we cut
Interesting.
Platinum.
I feel like Platinum's another one of those iconic characters that would be hard to miss, but
Yeah, kind
dang
of.
it, that's one of the few characters I'd seen before I knew she was BlazBlue.
But hey, maybe putting Makoto in this crossover game would mean that she'd actually be good and people might actually play her.
You never know.
Makoto
Also, by the way, only reason I say that is because chat was saying, Zero, if you made Makoto, you'll by default be the best Makoto in the world. Thanks, chat.
Rip.
Naya. From a character who uses adorable animal partners to a character who is an adorable animal partner. Okay, that's not an
Yeah,
entirely
okay,
fair
that's the
summation.
connection.
Bit of a stretch, but we'll take it.
Well, it's okay, yeah, sure.
But we're halfway through this list and coming up with segues is starting to become harder. Yes, I'm picking Makoto because not only is she a very popular character in the BlazBlue series, but also I think she is just insanely fun. She's got this
Yeah.
big, bubbly personality, and she's a squirrel girl who is quite possibly unbeatable. She rains down flurries of punches on the enemies and can even hit
Not the
someone
unbeatable
into
squirrel
the
girl.
moon.
Impossible.
You put all that together
We've
and
never
it
seen
makes
anything
someone
like
who
that
I
before.
want in a fighting game. Plus, I kind of love that both her and May, while being upbeat, super friendly young characters, are both insanely strong. It's another thing that would be great to see
Yeah.
come up in the story mode. Like we see some.
I mean, May is over here wielding an anchor to hit people with. With that tiny body, she basically has the strength of an
Yeah.
ant comparatively to her size.
Partial
one
strike.
shocked that May can lift up that giant anchor, but then they're double shocked when Makoto can lift it up just fine as well. Just as a fun little gag. Little stuff like that makes crossover special. Alright, so far a lot of these characters have been pretty standard. The characters that you would expect to see in a crossover between these franchises. We need a character that hasn't been seen in a while. Someone that will make audiences perk up and pay attention. So for this next character, I present you with...
Here comes Daredevil.
Somebody who people haven't seen in a while. Well, about that,
Well, I mean,
you weren't wrong.
people weren't really excited when Mike showed up. Or the Testament.
Both of them. Get both of them.
I was gonna say, both of them were DLC
Testament.
that were pretty hype.
Testament was
Testament,
the
yeah.
boss in the first Guilty Gear game and returned for Guilty Gear X as another powerhouse that was important to the plot. And that was kind of it. It's been almost 20 years since he last popped up, and anytime I see the Guilty Gear devs ask people, who do you want to see return, I always see him way up there. But I can understand why they haven't returned. Guilty Gear is a very story-driven game, meaning if the character doesn't fit the story, then they probably won't be in here.
Strive's plot, they're kind of just there watching shit.
Okay, look, guys, we can't figure out how to put Testament into the story. We'll just have Testament watch. Wait, oh my god, wait a minute. Testament? Observing? Observer?
Yeah.
Rachel?
Yeah. I told you. No, I'm on it. Perfect pair.
Last time that we saw Testament, he basically said, screw humanity, I'm going out into the forest forever, and has remained there ever since. But this is
still kind of
game.
that attitude.
We can craft whatever story we need in order to bring these characters in. The whole point of a crossover game is fan service. So if people have been asking for 20 years to see this character return, let's make that happen. And speaking mechanically, he would be a great fit for this game. Again, Guilty Gear characters are going to get drive abilities in here, and Testament already has a crow familiar that can attack the opponent. He sets up traps, he summons out little monsters to fight beside him. There are so many things that we could assign to the drive button. Plus, if you need any more motivation to include him in this game, his design is based on the Grim Reaper. Ragna's nickname is literally the Grim Reaper. This is another fight that has to happen in the story mode.
The wheel
Both of them with the scythe. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say probably Amane, right?
Amane makes sense. Oh.
New 13? What is the connection here? If there is one. I guess Zoner. Zoner makes sense.
Kind of emotionally distant.
New 13. Again, part of building a roster is making sure that you represent each type of fighter, and if you look up Zoner in the dictionary, there is a picture of New 13.
Yep.
When you absolutely positively have to hit everything on the field without actually moving, you pick New 13. And while she doesn't fit the same quota as Testament, that being a character who hasn't appeared in a while, no character really fits that in BlazBlue, because one of the great things about BlazBlue is they keep bringing everyone back for every installment. However, just like Testament, she was a big deal early on in the franchise. She was actually the original boss of the series. But as I said, the great thing about BlazBlue is that everyone gets to return, which means she didn't fade away. She continued to play into the story and be a memorable character for every single installment. And you might be thinking, yeah, but there has to be a better matchup for Testament. The fact that they both used to be bosses or mid-bosses is a bit of a stretch. True, but honestly, we're about halfway through this list right now. I think we've got enough characters in here based around the idea of matchups. Now we can start looking specifically at fan favorites, important characters, and interesting playstyles.
Fair enough.
And speaking of interesting playstyles,
here comes Daredevil.
Rachel? Trap Zoner?
We must operate now.
Do not worry.
Do it. You can't not have Faust.
Yeah, you have to. He's so iconic.
Yeah. I can see Faust and Rachel though.
Okay, listen, I could go on and on about how Faust is an iconic character for Guilty Gear, how everyone sees that big bag on his head and they instantly think of Guilty Gear. So much so that he's one of the only Guilty Gear characters to have ever actually crossed over into other games. And I can go on about how Faust's playstyle is pure chaos and games of chance, which makes him completely unique from every other character we could possibly include, adding a ton of spice to this giant roster gumbo that we're cooking up. But none of that matters. Because the reason why Faust has to make it into this roster is because Faust is Mr. YouTube compilation video. Faust is known for having crazy over-the-top supers and insta-kills that leave every enemy with some kind of bizarre comedic reaction, and if he now crosses over with a new franchise, that is a whole world full of characters that have never had a chance to have their faces twisted into hilarious contortion, and you know the internet would eat that up. They were put together 100%. In a second, and every Faust insta-kill reaction video, and that, my friend, is what we in the marketing department like to call free advertising.
The wheel of fate is turning.
We would drop a reaction to video to that so quick, you have no idea.
You know it. You know it. He's calling us out there.
9! Unless
Mine paired was past.
we're not pairing anymore, I don't think. We're just getting cool characters now at this point. Yeah.
True. Fair enough.
You have to have 9, right?
9.
Yeah.
She was there since the very beginning, and she only became
9 the
playable now.
Phantom. Speaking of characters with interesting playstyles, I describe Faust's playstyle as chaotic variety, and 9 the Phantom is controlled variety. BlazBlue is a game loaded with characters with unique playstyles, and I know this is a very biased opinion, but 9 is one of my favorite playstyles of any fighting game character I have ever seen. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I'm good with her. No, remember the motto of Thorgi's Arcade. We love fighting games even though we're bad at them. But if you don't know...
I am 100% standing behind that.
Yeah,
I agree. I love 9. I suck playing as her. Someday I hope to play better with her, for sure. But yeah. Honestly, we already made it clear. If we wanted this to be a pairing, it would be her and Ino. I think that just makes sense. But I could also see a pairing potentially between her and Asuka, because they do have a somewhat similar system where they store up a spell.
Yeah, that's true. But this was pre-Asuka, so there was no comparison there.
Yeah.
And she's got elemental attacks mapped to each of her 3 basic attacks: fire, water, and wind. But each
I don't think
time
Asuka you could describe as controlled chaos, though. I think his is just things are happening.
Just happy chaos.
Attacks, it then charges up a stock for that element. It stores that stock for the last 3 moves that you perform.
I cast gun! The most powerful magical ability in my pocket! Oh my god, this guy.
And then you can hit your drive button to do an attack that is based upon what stock you have stored up. I think this is genius. And considering that this game would give each of the BlazBlue characters a 4th attack with the kick button, that means that she would now have a 4th elemental attack that would create so many new drive combinations. Yeah, she's popular and that witch design is great, and because of that, it would be fun to see her fight or team up with Ino. But her drive is literally crafting a witch's brew out of the ingredients that you have built up over your fight. That is insanely cool, and if we're putting together a roster full of variety, 9 is all about that.
The wheel of fate is turning.
Celica. You know, the funny astral finisher you have to have, right? Heal your opponent and then one-shot them.
Yeah.
I know that you probably haven't been watching any of the streams, be playing Blaze with Kane. Kane tried out Celica for a little bit.
Yet, no.
But when Celica runs in, she has this one introduction animation where she's looking at a map, but she's holding the map upside down. And then she points in a particular direction, and the bot just like rolls their eyes and then points in the other direction. It's really fun. Celica's just such a great character.
That's awesome. No, I think I really like Celica a lot. She seems cool.
Celica
Super easy to play, too.
Speaking of 9 the Phantom, I'm going to include her sister Celica. The reason I'm picking her is because BlazBlue has a decent number of characters that fight with Puppet, so I figure if we want to get a good representation of this world to introduce new fans to the series, we should include at least one of them in here. And out of all the Puppet fighters, I know that Celica probably uses her Puppet the least. In fact, ironically, she is the only one from that game I would argue in fighting game terminology doesn't even count as a puppet fighter character, but she is definitely the most popular among them, and her powers don't stop at just her puppet. She actually has healing powers, which would help her stand out even more. Just like with her sister 9 the Phantom, you want to include characters that will make people who have never touched BlazBlue say, wait, you can do what in that game? Oh, I need to learn more about this. And something tells me seeing Celica fully heal her opponent before her doll gives them a massive beating would raise just the right number of questions.
Of course. You have to. Zato is just way too cool and way too iconic. Also legendary VA.
Zato 1. BlazBlue might be known for having a decent chunk of puppet fighters, but Zato 1 is the king of Arxis puppet fighters. His little black, totally not the Venom symbiote partner Eddie has always kept his opponent guessing as he crawls about the stage to attack, and in Guilty Gear Strive, he can do so much that they might as well just be 2 characters in one. So to all those BlazBlue players who specialize in Carl or Aurelius or are upset that the one puppet fighter we are including is the one that doesn't really quite count as a puppet fighter, this is your opportunity to try someone on the other team and see what you think. And considering that all the Guilty Gear characters are now gaining drive abilities, Zato is a perfect choice because the amount of abilities you could give Eddie are limited only by your imagination. Have him pop out of the screen from different directions. Have him stay where he is and attack whoever is around him like a turret. Have him bond with Zato for a power boost at the loss of some of your moves. There are so many things that you could do for this character with the new drive ability.
The wheel of fate is turning.
I am the white void.
Hakumen?
I am the cold steel.
Honestly, if we're gonna do a pair, Hakumen Nago makes sense. If we really wanted to. They played very similar to each other.
Sword. With bladed hand, shall I reap the
one of the new characters from Strive.
Yeah, honestly. And I don't think it's going to be Giovanna. It's definitely going to be Nago.
Sins of this world
Lewis Dickinson.
and cleanse it in the fires of destruction.
More big bodies.
Hakumen. The end has come.
Hakumen.
He probably wasn't.
This is another character that checks off a lot of boxes.
wasn't, no.
For starters, they're a classic. They were in the original BlazBlue, and not as a small footnote, no, they were a major player. Almost like a mid-boss who tied heavily into the plot, which is another major reason to include him in this game. Again, you know there's going to be some kind of a crazy story mode in here. Both these franchises always set aside a huge chunk of their resources for their stories, so if they came together, you know there would be a big story mode.
True.
Heck, we would probably even get branching pathways and a true ending and a gag reel at the end of this. They will go in hard on this story mode. And I'm not going to go too deep into Hakumen's backstory because...
Imagine they took a crossover of the two series with like the most wild, insane, out there stories, and then just didn't give a story mode.
Imagine the biggest missed opportunity in the history of all fighting games.
So much backlash.
Yikes, bro. And this time around, we can't say that it was because of COVID, all right? That's long past us now.
Everyone, then you would be watching this video until the next builder roster came out. But long story short, BlazBlue is a world that keeps getting destroyed and resetting itself, and Hakumen is a character who survived the previous collapsing timeline, so if Guilty Gear and BlazBlue came together, you know there would be some kind of cross-time and dimensional mischief going on. So the guy who can literally survive the death of a timeline might have some special interest in all of this.
This is kind of like Dr. Doom and with Marvel Rivals. Yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, Eno also came from an alternate reality that ceased to be and is a time traveler. I can already see the two of them having some unique interactions.
You know,
and when it comes to gameplay, Hakumen is known for his giant sword, and when it comes to Guilty Gear, there is no shortage of characters to match him up with. Heck, I've still got like 3 more on this list coming up, including this one.